So I'm looking at like where the shocks ended up and where, you know, and it's totally my fault. I kind of didn't pay attention to this, but you know, the bottom is angled in, and if you look at it from this direction, the bottom is totally angled forward, so it looks just terrible. It looks like Ray Charles built this thing. You know, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this, move it forward, and then I'm going to take these mounts and move them in a little bit more, and just get the shocks to line up a little bit better, have them straight up and down instead of at such a weird angle. So let's do that, and then we can focus on the front. So I'm trying to figure out where to put the shocks. Should I put them straight up and down? Should I put them at an angle? Now, obviously, the weight of the engine is going to have to be supported by these shocks. I have no idea how much that engine weighs. All I know is it weighs a lot. I did have a bathroom scale. Unfortunately, I crushed it trying to weigh the VF1000, so that thing doesn't work anymore. I'm not really sure if that would help us knowing how heavy that thing is, just because I don't know how strong these shocks are. I'm not sure how much weight they support. So I know that a lot of you guys are going to say that how I designed this makes it to where we don't have that much ground clearance. I know you guys are going to cringe at this, but we only have... we only have 6.5 inches of ground clearance. So I knew that while designing it. I knew that's going to be an issue. The reason I did that is because I want the engine as low to the ground as possible. It's going to look the best, so therefore the engine's not sticking up out of the hood. It's going to perform the best because the center of gravity is going to be lower, and it's going to just be the best just because the engine's going to be lower to the ground. You know, that's a good thing for going fast. So, I know that you guys are going to say that, you know, it's going to have this problem, you know, not enough ground clearance, it's going to be bad for off-road. I'm not really building this thing for off-road. We can take it off-road, but I'm not building it for off-roading. So, plus this thing doesn't have that wide a wheelbase, so I'm not that worried about it. I'll just be careful driving it. Plus it has the same ground clearance in the back as well. So it's just what it is, how I'm having to build this thing, just with the parts I have. So, back to the suspension shocks. I'm not sure where to put them. If I put them straight up and down, we're not going to have that much travel, but they'll be at their strongest point. Remember, the weight of the engine is going to have to be held up by these shocks. If I put them further back like this, they're going to have more travel, and they're going to be softer. But the more travel this thing has, the higher the engine has to be, so therefore this doesn't hit the bottom. So I'm not sure where to put these. I'm not sure even if they'll hold up the weight of the engine. So what I'm going to do for now is I'm just going to put them straight up and down, weld some tabs onto here, and lay a piece of plywood on top of here, take it off the jack stands, lay the engine on top, and just see what the suspension does. Does it bottom out? Does it barely move? And I'll adjust accordingly. Alright, moment of truth. Here we go. I know. Lift up my legs, not my back. This thing's heavier than it looks. Don't judge me. Yeah. It makes the suspension move a little bit, but definitely not enough. Let's move it back a little bit more and see if that improves it any. The shock placement looks a little goofy now with them leaning so far back, but let's just see if it works. That's a little better. I'd say that's better. Seems to work, at least.
plus whatever other weight we're gonna have on this thing. I mean, we're gonna have, you know, a whole lot more stuff we need to add. So I think this shock placement should work. Ah, look at that! Oh, the thing totally fits! Alright, so we got the front suspension mocked up and worked out. Now, I'm not entirely sure how well this is going to work. It's kind of just put together, and if I need to change anything, I can easily just break the tacks and change this, move this, or do whatever we need to do to make this thing work a little bit better. So, again, about the ground clearance. I know what you guys are going to say. I know you guys are going to say that this thing doesn't have that great ground clearance, and that's whatever it is. I'm doing the best I can with what I have. You see the size of engine that I need to fit in here, and I don't want this thing super tall. I don't want this thing, the taller it is, the more top heavy it's going to be, and the more it's going to want to tip over when you're driving it. So I want to put it as low to the ground. I am going to have to lift it up a good 2 inches. It's going to hit right there, so it's going to have to be a little bit higher than this. And then, remember, we have to have this on top of here. This is the air box, which 2 sensors attached to, and this is going to be going right here. So this thing's still going to be, pretty tall, and, it's not going to be something where I can have this thing flush or anything or whatever, so it's going to stick up quite a bit. So that's why I'm trying to get it as low as possible. So, anyway, I think this thing looks amazing. I have no idea how I'm going to do the steering. Haven't figured that out yet. Not sure if I'm going to be able to, but I'll figure that out later on. So I wanted to install the engine or get the mounts so this thing is sitting in the frame instead of sitting on cinder blocks. But I guess that's going to be for the next video of this project. We got some pretty good work done. It's now a roller. It's rolling by itself. It's not supported by anything but itself. So that's at least nice. So anyway, I gotta end this video here. Now I have to thank Go Power Sports for sending us the parts we have used for this project. Links for everything will be in the description below. Next video is going to be installing the engine, hopefully installing the seat and possibly jack shaft and getting the chains and all that stuff worked out. And whatever else we can do in the next video. But for now, I gotta end this video here. Thank you all for watching. I'll see ya in the next video.